Hello from Becky and me. Welcome to a brand new week on Anglia Tonight.
First this evening, the deaths of two people in an apparent chemical suicide pact in Essex.
The bodies of a man and a woman were discovered in a car on an industrial estate at Braintree at breakfast time this morning.
The area had to be sealed off amid fears that the couple had copied a form of suicide seen in America, but rarely in this country.
Our correspondent Malcolm Robertson is at the scene in Braintree now and joins us. Malcolm.
Well, the emergency services have been here since just after 8:30 this morning following the discovery of two bodies in a car on this industrial estate on the outskirts of Braintree. It has all the indications of suicide, and what's really concerning for the police, paramedics and firefighters is that it has the hallmarks of people taking their own lives using chemicals, and that's clearly a growing concern. For those in the emergency services, this was not only a very sad incident, but also potentially a very worrying one. The discovery of two bodies in a car on an industrial estate in Braintree. An apparent suicide, with notes having been left on the windows of the car warning not to open the doors because there were chemicals inside. A specialist chemical unit from Kent was called in to investigate and found it to be hydrogen sulfide, a mixture of household chemicals that can provide a lethal toxic atmosphere very quickly, evidence of a growing problem.
I do believe that these type of incidents have occurred in other parts of possibly this country, but certainly abroad, where personnel will do this sort of thing and then put signs on to stop innocent personnel opening the door and becoming another casualty themselves.
It was a worker on the industrial estate that raised the alarm just after 8 o'clock this morning. The bodies of a man and a woman were found in the front seats of a Vauxhall Astra car. It may have been there overnight. Police believe this has all the hallmarks of suicide, and the fear is of copying incidents in the United States and Japan of people taking their own lives using chemicals.
We're aware of other ambulance services having dealings in the past, but we believe this is the first occurrence of this type in the eastern region.
A pretty worrying development, really, isn't it?
It is a pretty worrying development, yes, there's no doubt about it.
With Braintree Enterprise Centre cordoned off to the public, workers like Chelsea Hill and her colleague Alex Goodwin were turned away.
The police pulled in front of us, as with my mum and one of the other colleagues, Callie. Police had pulled in front of us and said, you need to leave because there could be an explosion.
Tonight the police are still trying to analyse what led up to such a tragic waste of life.
Well, Malcolm, back to you. It sounds like quite a tricky operation for the emergency services to deal with.
A very delicate operation, a very grim operation, and also a very time-consuming one. I spoke to the man who discovered the car just before 8:30 this morning. His attention was drawn to the fact that there were posters on the windows warning of poisonous gas, and when you consider that the bodies have only just been removed within the last half hour, it illustrates the sort of difficulties that have faced the emergency services being confronted with a potentially very deadly chemical.
Malcolm, we heard in your report there the emergency services believe this is a very worrying development.
It is, Neil, yes. There has been evidence over the last few years in Japan. The authorities in Japan particularly worried about the fact that people have taken their own lives using nothing more innocent than ordinary chemicals, household detergents. This has spread to the USA. We spoke to the Samaritans today and they said that as far as they were concerned, this was the first instance in the UK, although paramedics we spoke to said that they thought there had been 2 or 3 in the UK, but certainly the first in the eastern region, and that clearly, from a lot of people's perspective, is very worrying indeed.
Malcolm, thank you for that update. Police are investigating after an officer was shot at in Wellingborough in Northamptonshire.
2 shots were fired during the incident this morning.
It happened in Abbott's Way just after 11:30 a.m. A man's been arrested, but police are still at the scene. Hannah Pettifer is there for us now. Hannah, can you fill us in on what happened?
Well, yes, it was around about 11:30 this morning when police were called to reports of a man causing a disturbance on Abbott's Way, which is a small road just off of this road, Wood Road, which is it's a purely residential area very close to Wellingborough town centre itself. And when police arrived, a man shot at a police officer and subsequently shot at a police vehicle. Now, it's not known at the moment just how many police officers were in that vehicle, but nobody was injured, and a 24-year-old local man has been arrested in connection with the incident, and he's currently in police custody. Now, as you may be able to see just over my shoulder, scene of crime officers are still currently here. They've been here for the best part of the afternoon and no doubt for the next few hours to come.
Hannah, are the police looking for help from the public?
Well, not exactly. I mean, they are saying that they are treating this as an isolated incident, so therefore they're not looking for anybody else in connection with the incident. But they do say that if people were around this area at around about 11:30 this morning, to come forward with any information they may have, whether that's to Northamptonshire Police directly or to Crime Stoppers anonymously, which is 0800 555 111.
Hannah Pettifer, thank you. Next, the Liberal Democrats from our region who've sparked a mini-rebellion over government education policy.
Delegates from Huntingdon put forward a motion against free schools and academies at the party's conference in Liverpool and won overwhelming support.
So was it a sign of cracks in the coalition? Well, not according to leader Nick Clegg. The theme of his speech late this afternoon, very much one of unity.
Cynics expected us to back away. Instead, we confounded those who said that coalition government was impossible. We created a government which will govern and govern well for the next 5 years.
But do his party feel the same way? Our political correspondent Matthew Hudson spent the day at the conference.
Where are they coming from?
Nick Clegg looked like a man relishing the day ahead as he arrived at conference. Then things began to go downhill. Nearby, a rebellion against government education policy was gathering steam. Lib Dems from Huntingdon proposing opposition to plans for more school academies and free schools. It got overwhelming backing.
I'm concerned that it could be the beginning of the end for a coordinated structure for education in this country. And it may be that that's what people want, but I think we're sleepwalking into what could be quite a difficult and dangerous situation.
Elsewhere, a Lib Dem MP with grave reservations about the coalition has been finding himself the centre of great attention and not just going through the conference's tight security. Bob Russell denies he's a focus for discontent, but says if others share his concerns, then so be it. Today alone, he was attending 20 engagements.
Everything is different, from the exhibition hall where there's a waiting list for people wanting stands, to the heightened security, to the media interest, both regional and national. And we're always grateful when Anglia TV came to the Liberal Democrat Party conference, but this time you're coming to the Liberal Democrat Party conference because we are part of the government of the country.
While there may be doubters, this isn't a party tearing itself apart. Whatever misgivings they have about tying the knot with the Tories, most people here are still flying the flag for the coalition. There's a feeling that the public understands cuts have to be made and a hope they won't punish them at the polls over the tough decisions they'll soon be making.
If we're going to stop the country becoming a basket case and indeed have a future for our children, we're going to have difficult times. And I think everybody does understand that is going to be necessary.
A tour of the conference's exhibition halls found many ordinary members sharing that optimism.
I think it's actually very positive and very upbeat, and it's actually quite exciting.
Before I came, I was worried that there'd be big talk of splits and a big left-right divide, but I've been surprised just how unified we are.
Things are very different here. Some things don't change. We like to have a drink, we like to get together, we're a big family, but this is a very content conference.
The mood of this conference can perhaps be summed up like this. Most, though not all, delegates are happy to be exercising some real power, if not exactly ecstatic about being in bed with the Conservatives. They trust their leaders, but will be watching them closely and won't be afraid to say when they think they're going down the wrong route. The Lib Dems are a party still coming to terms with having real power and responsibility. Major cuts will be announced in just a few weeks. Whether next year's conference will be so upbeat remains to be seen. Matthew Hudson, Anglia News, at the Lib Dem conference in Liverpool.